The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for attending this morning's webinar, Integrated Pipeline Management Solution for Operators of Low Mileage Pipeline. We appreciate you all spending your Tuesday morning here with us. I'm Marissa Davis and I'll be facilitating. So G2 announced this week the release of a new solution that we're calling Integrated Pipeline Management. This provides a comprehensive set of asset integrity, regulatory, and operational services for small and unconventional pipeline operators. This morning, Mark's going to take us through what that looks like, along with a case study. We'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so if you have one, you can go ahead and ask it via the question box, and we'll get it answered for you. We hope that regardless of where you're listening in with us this morning, whether you're in the office or at a makeshift desk you set up in your guest bedroom like me, that you are staying safe and healthy and positive. And with that, we'll get started. The host of today's webinar, G2 Integrated Solutions, provides responsive support and a comprehensive suite of asset integrity, engineering, GIS, field services, regulatory, and technology solutions that address asset performance through its life cycle. For more details on our services, please visit our website. All right, now let me introduce you to our presenter, Mark McQueen. Mark leads our asset integrity team here at G2 and provides expert technical support using his 25 years of experience in integrity and risk management. Supporting his management and technical lead roles is his knowledge of corrosion control and inspection methods for both onshore and offshore pipelines and subsea facilities, including direct assessment, inline inspection, and materials testing. So with that said, Mark, I will let you take it from here.
Thank you, Marissa. Good morning, everybody. As mentioned, today or this morning, I'm going to discuss what integrated pipeline management is. And here we have the agenda for the session. So we're going to describe what it is. Then we're going to look at who the users of IPM are. Then we're going to look at the integrated pipeline management integrated solutions. So we're going to look at what integrated pipeline management entails, look at the different disciplines that can be brought together or should be brought together to offer this holistic solution. Then we'll discuss a little bit about the value of what integrated pipeline management can bring to the operator. And then to round it off, I've got a case study where G2 actually have performed this successfully for a client. And then I'll end it all with a brief summary. Okay, so what is integrated pipeline management? Well, the way that it's defined, the way we've defined it, is it's a unique bundle of services that provides pipeline management to the energy industry. And it can be to all sections of the pipeline industry, from upstream, through processing, through midstream, all the way down to distribution. It allows for the operation and maintenance of pipeline assets in a safe, compliant, and cost-effective manner. And it can support full pipeline asset lifecycle. And we're talking there from design through commissioning into operations and then into abandonment. So full life cycle IPM can be applied to. So what does integrated pipeline management incorporate? Well, ideally, it incorporates expertise from asset integrity, from the regulatory side of the business, from geographic information systems, it also includes engineering, and then field services. And bringing all this together will form what we term as integrated pipeline management, because all the different skill sets are key for this successful implementation. So who's going to use IPM? Well, typically, but not exclusively, it's for operators with limited mileage regulated pipeline assets. And typically we find that this niche area to a degree are chemical manufacturers, refiners, transportation services, such as jet fuels, for example, at airports, terminal and distribution providers, and utility providers. So the municipal utility districts, they have some regulated transmission pipelines, very short segments. Also, typically for these operators where IPM is useful, would be where it's not their core business. Operating a pipeline is not core to their strategy. Also, lack of experience. Typically these small mileage operators don't have the resources on staff. So lack of experience and resource constraints are also items that need to be considered. So what are the attributes for the IPM users? Well, as I've said before, it's not a core business. They lack experience in pipeline management. So regulatory compliance for both federal and state codes, may not have the right resource on staff to address this. Integrity management is an involved program. Developing that pipeline integrity program, implementing it, and management of it requires resources, requires a lot of time. Geographical information systems, performing those HCA analysis and class locations often requires specialized software and tools. Again, a lot of these small operators don't have the time, don't have the money to manage it themselves. It's just not part of their core business. And I mentioned before, resource constraints, qualified, competent personnel. Again, having these types of specialist skill sets on staff is expensive. So if we break down each of these 5 key elements that form integrated pipeline management, we start on regulatory. So from an IPM, we're looking from a regulatory standpoint, we're looking for someone that can upkeep the changes in regulatory requirements. Often there is notice of proposed rulemakings on a fairly regular basis. So having that skill set in-house, or having the time to review and keep up to date with these changes is key in order to operate your pipeline in compliance. So by having this, you're allowed to have confidence in being compliant with the existing and new regulations. Also, some of the tasks that require from a regulatory standpoint is the annual PHMSA reporting and annual state submittals. As part of your regulatory program, you have to do program reviews. So you need to review and update your O&M manuals should any changes occur. Make sure you're adhering to what you've got written down in your O&M manuals. Similarly with your OQ programs. Perform the annual review, make sure what you say you're going to do, you do. And if there's any changes out there, then you need to incorporate those changes into those programs. Your integrity management program, again, similar. Review, changes, update, make sure you're in compliance with your own programs. And then the associate procedures and record forms. Again, it's an ever-evolving industry, particularly with integrity management. Things change. Just recently, the new mega rule. So with that comes a lot of changes. And from a consultancy standpoint, regardless of which consultant you are, if you're going to support your client, you need to be informed of and aware of all these changes and make these changes on behalf of your client. And then also, ideally, we would recommend that you develop a tailored compliance tracker for that particular client, whether it be a liquid or gas operator. Now, some of the things that the part of the integrated management program. So let me just clarify. So from an integrated pipeline management program, we're looking at something that is repeatable on an annual basis. So there are certain prescribed tasks that we have to do every year, such as those submittals, such as some of the more technical things like reading rectifier stations and CP readings and review of your programs. So those would all be part of an integrated pipeline management solution, and you would budget or you would cost that program accordingly. Now, there are certain things that you have to do, but maybe not on an annual basis. So what I've termed these as add-ons. So things that you can still support your client with, and your client would be looking for the consultant to do this, would be, for example, your control room management and training, or your audit preparation and support. So if we take, for example, the audit prep and support, we don't know when, to what extent, what size that audit could be from the regulator. So it's something that you would keep outside of your integrated pipeline management program, but it's something that you would offer and provide your client. But because it's an unknown, that would be something you would typically have to cost outside of the actual periodic program. So we move on to asset integrity. So why would these low mileage operators, not part of their core business to operate a pipeline, look to consultants from an asset integrity standpoint? Well, they want to understand the condition of their asset, and obviously, being experts, we should be able to help them do that. As part of this program, we would review the risk management program, look at all the threats to the system as part of that risk program. Once we've identified those threats, we would look at the preventative and mitigative measures, making sure they're using the right ones at the right frequency, the most cost-effective ones, get the biggest bang for their buck. We would also, as part of this annual program, look at their corrosion control program management, again, making sure they're adhering to what their program says and doing it in a cost-effective manner. But then some of the things that we would look to do as their owner operator, for example, would be the management of third-party vendors. So if, even as a consultant, you may not necessarily have field services or field expertise on staff. So again, taking the burden away from the operator, we as consultants would be able to manage those periodic assessments, such as cathodic protection testing, leak testing, valve maintenance. And again, we should understand what this is going to cost. So you would put all this into your IPM program, allowing the operator then to budget accordingly for what's expected on an annual basis. One call management. Again, to take the burden away from the operator, we're able to manage those one call systems for them. They get a ticket, we can determine whether it's going to impact their pipeline, and then react accordingly. And then public awareness programs. Again, we're required at a periodic basis throughout the year to let the public or emergency officials be aware of what of the pipeline. And again, we can manage all those activities, or we're expected to manage all those activities on behalf of the operator. Again, we talk about add-ons. So some of the things that aren't necessarily done on an annual basis, so it's hard to cost out. So for example, inline inspection, direct assessment. These typically, if your pipeline is in good condition, are done at maybe 5-year, 3-year, whatever intervals, whatever you've determined based on the condition of your pipeline. So those would be something you'd have to cost outside of the IPM solution. And for example, line marking and site attendance. When we talk about one call management, we're able to manage the tickets on behalf of the client, determine whether somebody needs to be on site, whether the pipeline needs to be marked because somebody's going to be excavating or digging close to the pipeline. Well, again, that's very hard to cost because we don't know when the extent that excavation is going to take. So again, that would be kind of outside of the integrated solution itself. So GIS, again, on behalf of the operator, would be looking to provide updates to the NPMS system, National Pipeline Mapping System. We'd be looking to identify, assess, model and map potential class location and high consequence area locations And again, depending on what your operator is operating, liquid and gas models, structure verification. You know, again, we'd all do this. We'd expect to be doing this on behalf of the client. And then from all this information, we'd integrate the acquired pipeline data and link the corresponding scanned record images to an industry standard GIS database. And then finally, a software management database to house all this data, all the records, all the drawings and documents. Again, as part of an integrated pipeline management solution, you want the operator to be able to get access quickly, easily to their data, to their information. And again, releasing the burden from the operator as an IPM user or implementer, you'd be doing this on behalf of the client. And then fourthly, as part of those 5 key items, services, engineering, you know, to complement and supplement the IPM. Ideally, we'd have a strong engineering team, somebody that can look at the pipeline attribute documentation, including as-builts, pressure test reports, alignment sheets, pipeline leak reports, material purchase records, all this information to help bring the pipeline asset together. We'll be looking at, depending on when, as I said, this is full life cycle offering. So you're talking about in design, leading into commissioning, into operations. So lead engineering and advisory review of construction documentation. Depending where you're working with your client, you know, you get in at the early stage, then again, having that strong engineering element to your consulting arm would be fantastic for that. And then obviously TVC, very apt skill service that most operators are going through now. So again, having that engineering element there for the TVC to make sure the operator knows pretty much everything about their pipeline to make sure it's running safely, operating safely is key. That engineering criticality assessments, you know, if you find defects out there, particularly on those gas lines, we may want to run an ECA. And then based with all this information, we're then able to determine the maximum operating pressure and maximum allowable operating pressure validation. And then again, having this element, this engineering element, should repairs, modifications be required, then it's something that a consultant is able to offer their clients. Finally, the fifth element, field services. So from a field services standpoint, you know, we can, I mentioned before, you know, you can third party it, some of these activities such as CP readings, but ideally, if you have it in-house, if you have it as part of your own offering, then you can offer the operation maintenance and support. So valve clocking, meter testing, pressure testing, cathodic protection readings. Again, all managed through IPM, releasing the burden from the operator. Inspection services, so leak surveys, line locate. Again, if it's all in-house, it keeps it all nicely bundled and easily managed, both from a consultancy level, but also from the client level. Asset verification and data collection. So GPS collection, records and mapping verification, all feeding into the GIS. It's all a service and offering that all works together. And then operator training, again, just helping support the client. And then some of the add-on type things, you know, sometimes some of these operators don't have any tanks, but again, if you have it in-house, then you know you can perform or help the operator with tank management. So the API 650, 653 inspection services, LiDAR scanning and modeling, burn containment analysis and catastrophic release modeling, and full turnkey programs. So cleaning, degas, inspection, engineering, repairs. Again, through tank management, it's probably more of a standalone project as opposed to an integrated pipeline management solution. But again, it's you know, it's all part of that pipeline system that some operators have and some don't. So, but again, it's being aware of the bigger picture as well, and having that to consider offering your client. Okay, so kind of described the 5 elements that feed into the IPM solution. One of the things that we also need to be aware of as consultants is a la carte options. So your IPM, the Integrated Pipeline Management Solution, wants to be flexible. So decide on areas of ownership. You know, your client might say, okay, well, yeah, please go ahead and review all our programs. However, we'll manage a third party. So we'll manage the CP readings, the pipeline patrols internally. That's fine. You know, this is what IPM allows you to do. It's not one hat doesn't fit all. So it's an a la carte type flexible program. So each engagement is unique and tailor-made, and focus on core strengths. So again, it's just all to the benefit of your client. And the good thing for the client as well is that it relies on expertise outside of their organization too. So they're getting third-party independent reviews of their programs as well. So what's the value to the operator? What does integrated pipeline management bring value? Well, the big thing, the key thing, it allows the operator to focus on their core business. So it's a minimum distraction to non-core activities. It minimizes their overhead, so minimal hiring, training, and assembly of the multidisciplinary team. As I said, there's five elements going to IPM. So arguably, that could be 5 individual, 5+ individual employees required by this small, or let's say small operator. It can be a large company, but the small size pipelines that go with it. So that's quite an extensive overhead to keep those kinds of individuals or groups of individuals on staff, as well as software and associated programs that go with it. Also allows the operator to accurately budget and forecast. As I said, we're looking, this IPM is an annual program that we have a good idea of what's required and when it's required on an annual basis. So we're able to help the operator focus their budgets and costs as to what it's going to take to manage that pipeline. So it's optimized operation and maintenance budgets. And you're maximizing uptime through minimizing downtime. And what I mean by that is, since it's not their core business and they don't necessarily have the expertise on hand or within their organization, then the consultant would be able to help them realize the full potential of the pipeline through understanding its integrity, through the management of all the associated items that go with managing the integrity of a pipeline. So it gives confidence and assurance that their pipeline is also going to be it's going to be operated safe and reliably. So key items for keeping the pipeline in an operating state, so maximizing the uptime through minimizing downtime. You know, we're able to understand what defects are in the pipeline, so we're able to respond accordingly and not overreact, for example. And then you've also got constant access to pipeline management expertise. Okay, so that's kind of gives you an overview of the items that go into an integrated pipeline management solution, the benefits to the operator through using a consultant. Now here we go to where we actually have utilized it in real life. So the client that we had is a global petrochemical manufacturer. Location is here in Texas. And the facility has 2 regulated pipelines and 5 non-regulated pipelines. And they vary in size and service, but they're all low mileage, all less than 10 miles. And basically the scope was to implement and manage the to the Texas Railroad Commission and PHMSA requirements. So probably most of you are familiar with those requirements from an integrity management standpoint. And also the part of the scope was obviously to allow the client to focus resources and budget on its core business. The operator, the client, did not want to be, and I'm saying it in inverted commas, distracted with managing and operating a pipeline when it had other items that was of greater priority to them. So, as I mentioned, this is full life cycle. So, for this particular client, we got involved in the pre-operation stage. So, as part of that, we were able to perform a comprehensive review of the pipeline attribute documentation. We also were able to perform jurisdictional determination regarding the pipelines and control room, where the control room was actually required. We led the engineering and advisory review of the construction documentation. We provided GIS management solutions, and we developed a regulatory compliance manuals, operation procedures, and also the associated record retention forms. This is an advantage of being in there early when there's new construction going ahead. But because of the flexibility of IPM, it doesn't matter whether it's a brand new pipeline or whether they've been in operations for 10, 15, 20 years. As part of the pre-operation stage, we integrate the pipeline data and linked all the corresponding record images into an industry standard GIS database. We're also able to perform classification and HCA analysis. As part of the pre-operations commissioning phase, we developed and executed the pipeline cleaning program, and we also managed the execution of the caliper tool run, and we reviewed the inspection reports as well, make sure that the pipeline was constructed and installed in the correct manner. So moving into the actual operations phase, we established the one call ticket management system, as I mentioned before. We would actually get any one calls out there, that information would come to us. We would look at that information on behalf of the client and determine whether any further action was required. When we talk about further action, we talk about whether we have to send somebody out and do the line marking, and then depending on how close those excavations may be to the client's pipeline, then we would have somebody on site to observe and make sure everything was done right. So as part of that, we assist with the management and provision of the damage prevention program. We led the development, implementation, and management of the public awareness program too. So we on behalf of the client had meetings with emergency response teams and public officials. We also helped with the annual public awareness mail out. And then with this being a relatively new pipeline, over the next year or two, we'll also get to see how effective that program was, and we're managing and monitoring the effectiveness of that program. Also, we performed the above ground visual inspections as required, and we're also guiding audit prep and support activities to a limited degree. Like I said before, we don't know until the audit comes through from the regulator. We're unable to determine how much effort that's going to require. So, so you can guide it by making sure all the plans and programs are compliant. But when it comes to the actual audit itself, until that comes through, then we can determine how much effort that's going to require, and somewhat falls outside of this integrated pipeline management annual scope. This client, we do the annual PHMSA reporting. We also perform the annual pipeline management system submissions, also to the local state regulator submittals as well. We actually perform the program reviews on the O&M, OQ, and IMP. As I said before, there are often updates, changes, notice of proposed rulemakings. For example, just recently, the new so-called mega rule all got implemented. I think the was it the gas one that just went in July there, and liquor one kicking in December. So we have to make sure that all the documentation, all the changes due to those are now going to be carried through into the client's programs as well. We conduct the threat assessment and periodic evaluation of the integrity program itself, annual emergency response exercises, again, all on behalf of the client, well, on behalf and also working with the client. It's not a totally independent solution. This is something that, if successful, you work closely with the client, but the burden or all the effort is, it still allows them to focus on what they want to focus on, knowing that all this stuff is being addressed by the consultant. And then the annual HCA classification and structure verification, again, all handled by in this case by us. From an ongoing operation standpoint, still, the upkeep of the regulatory compliance changes, just kind of alluded to that with the mega rule. And then the management of third-party contractors for pipeline work activities. So, I think I mentioned in the first one when I went through the 5 elements, field services being part of the 5 key things for the IPM. Well, like I said, in all cases, you tailor it. Well, for G2 itself, because of the geographical location of some of our offices, so we actually had to third party this ourselves. Even though we have some of these resources in-house, a lot of our field services activities are geographically located in a different location in Texas. So for the client, it would not be cost effective for us to bring in those services to support the client here. So we went to a local provider, and we subcontracted them to perform the component protection system readings, the component protection testing, the annual leak surveys, the valve and operations maintenance testing, and also the overpressure protection maintenance. So again, it's tailored. You use the right skill sets for the right job, all to benefit the client. And then we do our periodic evaluation review of the O&M procedures. So for this particular client, what are the results and the benefits? Okay, well, client's able to concentrate on its core business, minimum distraction from its non-core activities. Again, they're able to allocate budget and resources to continued successful operations. Also, we're able to develop, we now have a protocol in place or established to move the client from a prescriptive to a more predictive maintenance and inspection type program. So optimizing their program, helping them use the detailed information about the condition of their asset better, make better informed decisions of how and when to do certain things, certain inspections, types of inspections. They've also got constant access to expert pipeline integrity analyses. They also have a continually improving integrity management program because it's fully integrated with operations for the stakeholders, includes manuals, procedures, and forms. But that knowledge of all the information is now being used to help them have a better, safer, more reliable asset. So the other benefits: confidence on being compliant with existing and any new regulations, efficiencies gained from a comprehensive compliance tracking tool. So we've developed a tool tailored specifically for this client, whereby an alert is sent to both the client and to the consultant, letting them know these following tasks are going to be done at during this specific period. So there's no surprises. They understand, or they have the knowledge So they're not excluded from what's going on in the pipeline. They're fully engaged and involved in understanding what and when is happening to their pipeline and why it's happening. That's important as well. You know, they're paying for this integrated pipeline management solution. Well, why are they paying for it? And what, you know, what's the benefit? Well, through this tracker, they're able to understand. Oh, okay, yes, I understand why that has to be done and why and when it has to be done. Also, they have a software management database to house the pipeline inspection data, records, drawings, and documents. They've got expertise on call to continually improve the program. And then a single source, one call management system. Again, they don't have to get bogged down or burdened with these items. So, integrated pipeline management solutions summary. What does IPM bring to the operator? Well, from an annual pipeline management services, damage prevention, one call management system, public awareness, federal and state reporting, control room management, risk analysis, provides an online database to record and maintain pipeline regulatory compliance activities. That's all from an annual pipeline management services offering. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's some of the key attributes from this program. Annual pipeline work activities, again, not to burden the client, so we take care of the cathodic protection inspections, the pipeline patrol, the annual leak surveys, overpressure protection maintenance and testing, valve maintenance, periodic evaluations, review and O&M procedures. Again, not an exhaustive list, but releases the burden from the client. Third-party contract management. So we're able to support the bidding and procurement process for third-party services and materials. GIS managed solutions, you know, able to create and post GIS platforms to meet internal data requirements and regulatory compliance. Again, releasing the burden from the client. And then additional project activities. So, as I said, you know, these are the kind of items that are maybe outside of the annual IPM offering, but we're able to support for specialized projects. So, for example, inland inspection, direct assessment, pressure testing, and even the audit supports themselves. So, with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. I hope you found this useful and look forward to answering any questions. Thank you.
Sure, we do have a couple questions. Let me see. One says, can you quantify the savings an operator can realize using this solution?
I mean, yes, we can. It's something we haven't actually done just yet, but a very crude example would be, for example, resources. So we look at the 5 elements that I talked about. We talked about the GIS skill set, engineering, integrity management, field services, and what was the other one? Regulatory. So I mean, if it just, like I said, it's a crude example. You know, assume 5 individuals on staff, and assuming $100,000 each for each individual, you're looking at 500,000 plus for an internal resource from an operator standpoint. Whereas maybe a program such as this may cost significantly less than that. So, but no, you know, that's something that we plan on doing over the near future to actually put that cost benefit to the client, and allows to demonstrate, oh yes, in addition to releasing the burden from the client and also the having access to expert knowledge, it's also some significant cost savings too.
Okay. It says, what specific type of ECA is performed for pipeline integrated management?
Well, specific, it just in order to determine what needs to be done and whether the pipeline fit service or whether we need to replace, repair that particular defect that's being assessed, engineer criticality assessment. So you know, take all the information from the assessment, and then determine the path forward.
Okay. It says, what or who designates regulated versus non-regulated pipelines?
The regulators, PHMSA, Rail Commission, you know, they have definitions as to what a regulated pipeline is and what a non-regulated pipeline is. And if the operator is unsure whether they fall under the jurisdiction of a regulated pipeline, then, you know, having that regulatory expertise in house can look at the attributes, the operating conditions of the pipeline, where the pipeline is located, what the service, size, and then determine based on all that information as to whether it's a regulated or non-regulated pipeline.
Okay. Next, it says, please tell us more about your GIS platform.
I'm not an expert on the GIS, so I'd be happy to pass your information on to our GIS business line manager, Terry Strahan, and he can provide you with all the information you need on that.
Okay. And it looks like that's all the questions we have. So we'll wrap it up right here for today. We hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. As always, I'll send out a copy of the presentation as well as a link to the recording after this. So make sure you be on the lookout for that. And we will see you next time. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.